All right. Hey, everybody. This is Rob and Jordan, and we are back with Archangel Inc. Live number 41. How are you tonight, Jordan?
I am great. I'm ready to go. Ready to talk about this fun subject.
Great.
And yeah, we're gonna roll.
Okay, cool. So this evening, I am pulling up these comments here, so we have them on the screen. This evening, we are talking about $0 book marketing ideas. And so opening thoughts here. Let's see. So part of this came from an inquiry that I got from a reader, somebody who signed up for our email list. And he, or she, actually, I'm not even sure. This person inquired whether there were things that he could do to improve his standings for an existing book that didn't involve Amazon ads for whatever reason. Folks out there might be interested in seeing what they can do, whether it's, just kind of a general, hey, I don't have a lot of discretionary income, or it may be a matter of maybe you don't have access to Amazon ads, maybe, whatever it might be. So that was kind of the spirit here. We've got Jim in the audience. Thanks, Jim, for saying hello. And Jim, if you have any questions along the way, we're going to try to answer those toward the end of the live stream. So feel free to comment in there. We're happy to see you. But anybody else watching, if you are joining us live, then we will do our best to answer questions toward the end and just kind of consolidate them all, see if we can touch on anything that you might be curious about in the body of the video here. Anyway, we thought, well, this would be a cool topic. Let's talk about some things that we can do that don't require any financial outlay necessarily. So, just the kind of things that maybe you do a little bit of research, you hustle, you put your nose to the grindstone, and all right, I'm gonna kind of work it as best as I can. My wallet is empty, or my wallet is closed anyway. So let's see what we can do to enhance the sales of this book, assuming it's already out there. Any thoughts on those as we are opening up, Jordan?
No, I really like this topic. I like the idea, the whole concept of money as a tool. I think as an author, like that's definitely a good mindset. But there are some times where money might be short, or you're just like, hey, I want to figure out how to do this on my own. I want to figure out what strategies I can employ. Hey, I have time. I have a weekend free. Right. I'm ready to get down to business. I'm ready to get some work done. And these are some ideas that you can just hustle. And I think a good mix, knowing these strategies as well as some other paid strategies, I think a good mix and a good balance is usually the best approach. But yeah, if you're in a phase where you have some time to put into this, so hopefully some of these strategies will help you out.
Yeah, I think that's the great point. One of the things, I took a permaculture design course some years ago, and one of the guidelines, if anybody's not familiar with permaculture, the basic idea is ecological design philosophy. So how can we create all these different systems that mimic natural systems, but also provide for human needs, whether that's for food or fuel or fiber or so forth. One of the instructions that one of our teachers told us was, hey, if you're building this design, let's say you're on a site of land, and you're trying to come up with something to accomplish certain goals, you come up with a budget and you say, all right, this is, I'm going to do all of this for, let's say, $1,000. And then you say, okay, cool. So the best way to increase creativity, cut a zero off your budget. Now you have $100. What are you going to do different? Similar here, let's say maybe you have $50 or $100 for Amazon ads, but you're like, okay, so I'm just going to divert that to Amazon ads, but what else can I do? How can I be creative in other arenas without spending any other additional funds? So that's kind of the spirit here. All right. Anything else as we get started here, Jordan?
No, I'm good. Let's jump in.
Perfect. So the first topic here is optimize your Amazon presence. And there are a number of different things, and we can kind of talk about them in batches and go over that. So the first one I have, the title and subtitle, cover quality check, engaging book description. So those are good first three to kind of look at here, because all those more or less have to do with the Amazon sales page. Anything that you want to mention on those, Jordan?
No, I just think this is a super important step. It's something I've done myself, whether I was in the process of writing the book or I was like, hey, I do have some extra time. Let me check my listings on Amazon and see what's going on. Maybe I haven't looked at a certain book in a while. Maybe I haven't checked out the reviews. I haven't added or checked out the editorial reviews to make sure all that looks right. I think it's just one of those things that, it's a good thing to go and recheck. Hey, can I optimize this at all? Mm-hmm. Have I added book, the amount of book categories I can add for all my books? asking those kind of questions, and it depends on how many listings you have, how much time this is going to take, but it is an important step to go back and think, and even this can be done before you get your book out, or if you're in my case and have several out. And I think either way is fine, because you can still make those updates and changes and just try to see it from a new perspective. I think sometimes coming away from something for a while, if it was a book you published a while ago, or maybe you just published it a few weeks, but even a few weeks off of that can give it time to breathe and time to have a fresh look. And you read your sales copy and say, actually, I don't know that this is saying what I want it to say. Or you find out it's not working through some other data, and that gives you a chance to go in and just make sure everything looks as good as it can be.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great idea. And, we're approaching July 4th weekend. Some of us will be out celebrating. Some other folks may have some free time. And this could be a really good opportunity to say, hey, let's just do a calibration. And how are we standing? Where are we at? Is there anything that I can tweak? Maybe it's just spending 10 or 15 minutes, or maybe a half hour or half a day, or maybe it's the whole weekend, whatever, kind of works for you. But I love that. And I'll kind of go through some of these other ones here. So we mentioned title and subtitle, cover quality check, engaging book description, another one, category optimization. One tool there, and we'll mention on this in a moment, is the Kindle sales rank calculator. Another is, are you listed in all 10 categories? Now, this is something that's changed. And again, we'll talk about that. It wasn't always the case that you had access to 10 categories. You do now. And a lot of authors weren't informed of that. So they might have books that have been out for a few years and they are not in all the categories that they're eligible to be in. Another thing, keyword research and optimization, quality book reviews, format and include your editorial reviews, experiment with pricing, and create an author central page. On that author central page, a couple of notes here, include a good call to action and a professional looking photo or image for yourself. So a lot of different thoughts here, and I'll kind of just go down them, and then Jordan, interrupt me at any point, or I'll give you a chance to jump in as well at the end. As you were saying, there's a whole bunch of elements here, sales page, and we've covered a number of these here. But first thing, title and subtitle. There's a client that I've been working with, just started out. It actually took us about a week and a half, a couple of weeks to come up with the title that we both really like. We sent it to the editorial team, to other members of the project, and it took a while. We had some different ideas that went back and forth. But sometimes when you're creating your book, you think, well, done is better than perfect, and so you just kind of work. It's good enough, it's workable enough, but it is something that you can change. You have to be locked into it forever. Particularly with Amazon ebooks, you can make those changes. You don't have to update your ISBN. The Amazon ID number will migrate if you do make a little bit of a tweak or a change to this title and subtitle, and that can really help. Another thing, how's your cover looking? Is it performing well? Does it look like it belongs with other high performing members of your genre? Now, you can invest more into it, or maybe you say, hey, I'm going to figure out what actually it takes to build a good cover. And there are some good resources out there. You can start searching on YouTube. You can check out Creativity or Creative Indie, which is Derek Murphy's page. We've collaborated with Derek before on an audio project. Derek has a lot of really good stuff. He makes really high quality covers, but he's also got some free resources for people who are looking to improve their covers and build their own. So there are a number of
Derek's stuff. Big fan of his website and his stuff. It's good. I always come back to that. He has some good stuff on there.
Yeah, his book, Book Marketing is Dead, I thought was really cool. And, it was deliberately provocative, talking about good titles. Yep. And the basic idea was, you're not going to use the same tactics that you did previously. It's a lot more about relationship building, which is why we emphasize all of these strategies and things that we do here. It's not, hey, spend a bunch of money appearing on, I don't know, radio or newspaper ads or set. It's again more relationship building, and definitely check that out if you're interested in that kind of topic. But yeah, he has good resources on book covers. He has a number of good articles actually on what constitutes a book cover. I've shared them with several of our clients. He'll point out, for example, compile these really cool looking or let's say collages of different titles that all kind of have a similar look, a story set in Africa, and you think of like The Lion King, the sort of red and gold background and tree in a savanna or something like that. But you see that theme repeating frequently elsewhere, or he'll have something that's like like a Jason Statham movie, like black and white and kind of cool action sequences. Anyway, his point, and this article, which I really like, and I will include a link down to it down below for it, is there cliches are important for cover design, and it's okay to speak in cliches because you're trying to cast an immediate impression with your audience. You don't want to be bland; you just want to be, but you do want to speak in those familiar tones, and you want it to the quality to kind of speak for itself rather than some sort of out of left field set of images. Anyway, there's lots of good stuff there. Kind of just moving on, an engaging book description. That is really, really powerful. One of the simple things that you can do if you haven't yet, make sure that you're taking advantage of the markup and coding. There is a good tool, which I will include a link to, and it's from Dave Chess, and we mentioned him a number of times. He's got a number of good free resources in addition to paid resources, but he's got the book description tool, which helps you create a really attractive formatted book description. You don't have to have HTML knowledge, and if you just type it up, it's not going to display as dynamically as if you take advantage of some of this markup that you have access to. And he's also, I think, recently added a pretty cool download for strategies around writing your book description, whether that's for fiction or nonfiction, and different things to keep in mind. So definitely feel free to check his stuff out. Another thing, category.
And Rob, I wanted to mention with the book description, I feel like out of all these options, I think it's one of the most important because it is something you can tweak. And if you're thinking about your book's sales page, people aren't necessarily, once they're on your sales page, aren't as concerned with your title or book cover. They are an important part of the sales page and your book listing in general. But if you're thinking about when someone clicks on your book title because they saw your cover, they're seeing that from a thumbnail within Amazon. They're seeing a shorter glimpse of that, and they're clicking into it to see a little bit more. So at that point, you've kind of already sold them a little bit. And when you thinking about optimizing your page, that sales description really, the more you can optimize that, and the better you can make that. That's just super important to finalize that and close the deal. You have people's interest. Now you're trying to close the deal. Why am I going to buy this book? Right. It's a super important part of the tweaking process.
Yeah, exactly. Is it something that's actually going to add value to my life, that's going to be worth the time and money and energy to go through it? If it does add value, then it's an easy proposition. And this is your opportunity to show that you can add that kind of value and speak to your audience's needs. So cool. And then, so category optimization, another element here. And I've seen this strategy used before, where you might start off and maybe you don't have any particularly strong followership. Maybe you don't have as many reviews yet as you would like. And so you put yourself in a category that's appropriate, but one that you can maybe perform a little bit better in. And then it turns out you're showing up maybe on the first page, maybe even at the top of the page of your particular specialized niche category. And then in turn, you can kind of migrate yourself over, or add as an addendum a bigger category. It's one that's going to be slightly bigger. So you're now the big fish in the small pond, but now you can be kind of the medium fish in the medium pond, and kind of build up your sales and your followership in that way. I think the figure is something like, only, 20% or 30% of people actually go on to the second page of an Amazon listing. So if you're not showing up right away when they're searching for something or when they're browsing through categories, there's a good chance that you're going to lose them. So it makes sense to be honest with yourself about where you're at, where your sales are currently. See if there's something that fits, that's appropriate, where you can show up on that first page, ideally, hopefully in the top 1 or 2 or 3. And then use that to kind of start to build a little bit of momentum. One of the tools that I mentioned here is the Kindle Sales Writing Calculator, also created by Dave, and you can kind of see how many sales do you need to be in the at the top of your category. So you find a category that you think might fit. How many sales do they have currently? Put that sales figure in there and says, okay, maybe you need to sell 10 copies a day to show up in the list where this particular title is. If you know that you're at 8 or 10 sales per day in your current category, maybe you can actually move over. And you can kind of just pay attention to this. This is going to be something that you can track. You can put in as much time or energy as you want. I would say at least probably don't do it more than once a day, just to give yourself a chance to kind of catch up. But so track it every week or every couple of weeks and see, maybe again, you're getting more reviews, you're getting more interest. You can kind of pull yourself over and start to catapult yourself organically, just by taking advantage of the way that people browse the categories on Amazon. Cool. Anything else that you want to add on that, Jordan?
Nope, you got it.
Okay, cool. So listing in 10 categories. This is something I know that you've introduced me to and are a little bit more familiar about it. Tell me more.
Yeah, this one's a good one because when you're uploading your book into Amazon, you can only choose 2 categories. They only give you the option of choosing 2. But Amazon is fine with actually having your book in 10 different ones. You just have to ask. So what you do is you just go in through your help and say, actually, this book, because Amazon wants the best for your book as well, they want your book to show up in more places. So it makes sense for them to be, it's not like you're gaming the system or anything. All you're doing is asking and saying, hey, my book actually, it fits multiple categories. And I think the only warning I would say with that, Rob, is, if you can't think of 10 categories that your book totally fits in, maybe just put it in 8. Now, there's likely that you'll be able to find 10 that it fits in well enough that it deserves to go in there. But just be thinking about that. You don't want to, like we say with Amazon, you don't want to poke the bear in any bad way, and you don't want to play the game. But you can ask them, and that's totally fine. So what you do is you go through your KDP dashboard for your book, and you go to the help section, and they even have I believe actually they have a pre-built email within their support that just says update categories, and then it'll give you actually step-by-step instructions on how to do that, and you put your book listing in there with your book title and your ISBN and all the relevant information, and then you just say I want it added to these 8 categories. Now, you do have to do that for your print book and your ebook separately, because the categories for ebooks are different than the categories for print book. I made the mistake of emailing them and saying, hey, I want my books in these categories, and they were like, actually, these are completely different. You have to do it separately. I'm like, well, I knew that. I was trying to make this quick. I was trying to take a shortcut, and they were like, no. But yeah, so do it separately. But you can go through. You can look up different categories just using Amazon and seeing what categories other books are in, or you can use the category feature on Publisher Rocket, which is very powerful and it makes the process much quicker. That's a tool again by Kindlepreneur that we mentioned before. But yeah, this is a cool, quick strategy that you can go do and just make sure your book is showing up in all the categories that it's supposed to be in.
Right. Yep. Exactly. And so you mentioned Kindlepreneur. Next thing up here, keyword research and optimization. Now, Publisher Rocket is a paid product. So if you have it already, great. It's not going to cost you anything extra. If you really don't have the budget for it, you don't have to do it. There are other keyword research tools out there. Just do a basic Google search. I spent a couple of minutes on it. I came up with, a dozen different ones. Mess around with them. See if the main idea, again, with keyword research and optimization is, what are people who would love your book looking for? How are you speaking to them? And so that's kind of the big picture there. We've got a bunch of other ones and then a bunch of off Amazon strategies. And I know we're going to try and keep it short. So let's kind of just breeze through these, Jordan. And folks, if you are interested in this material, if there's something that you'd like us to expand on, we have a number of additional videos, but we'd love to create more content for you. So just let us know as we wrap up in the comments, whether you're live or catching the replay a little bit later. But again, if any of these you're like, guys, you breezed through it. It was only a minute that you spent, and I'd love for you to talk more. We'd love to hear that. Okay, quality book reviews. We have the Ultimate Book Review Manifesto. We've talked about this a lot, but if you haven't done some of the things that we've outlined in some of those videos and that blog post, definitely do that. Those will make a big difference for ongoing relevancy as far as Amazon's concerned, and will aid in people finding your book and deciding to make that purchase.
Yep, and the only thing to add with book reviews, Rob, you have to hustle to make it happen. I think there's no other way around that. If you want quality book reviews for your book, you have to put some work in to make sure that it happens on or before your launch day. It's just, there's no other way around it. You have to do the tough work.
Right.
That's why we have the resources there, because it does take some in-depth time. So
Yes, it definitely does. Cool. Next one, format and include editorial reviews. Again, this is something when I first got into it, editorial reviews weren't something we had access to, but it is a feature. You can include editorial reviews from people you know, friends, family, professional reviewers, industry leaders, whatever you want. You have that option. And we've talked about that before, and kind of formatting it in a way that looks good and attractive. So you can check previous resources, or if you have questions, let us know and we'll answer those. Excuse me. Next thing here, experiment with pricing. And there we go. Experiment with pricing. So you may find that there is a sweet spot for your title, that if you price it at $9.99, you're making more per sale, but you're not selling quite as many. If you sell it at $2.99, your net revenue ends up being not quite as good. You're selling more copies, but it's not quite there. So just trying to find that curve. Maybe it's $4.99, maybe it's $6.99, maybe it is $2.99, maybe it's 99 cents. Who knows? But you can experiment, kind of pay attention, see where you're at. If it's already out there and you have a baseline sense of where your sales are, then experimenting with pricing can give you something to compare it to as you work it in week-long blocks, 2-week-long blocks, month-long blocks. But just one more thing.
And Amazon has a nice tool within the KDP dashboard too that you can have access to when you're changing your pricing. That actually gives you kind of a scale of similar books in your genre and saying, hey, your book might actually do well at this price. I've never followed that to the letter, but it's a cool tool just to make sure you're kind of within the range. You can access that while you're changing your price.
Great. Yep. Great information. Thank you, Jordan. Next one I have here is create an author central page. And underneath that, I have include a good call to action, CTA, and a professional looking photo or image. So you have an opportunity to sell yourself here. A lot of times people will click on it. If you have other titles that you're listing that you've already published, this is a good way to consolidate them all under one heading and create a unified experience. And take advantage of it. Sometimes people don't. I see a number of authors who have multiple titles out there, and it's kind of a crapshoot. They'll click on your name and maybe it'll come up with your other titles, maybe it won't. So this is a good thing to make sure that you have lined up. And then a good call to action. Do you have a website? Do you have a blog? Do you have a title that is a good introductory title? Something. Just tell them, hey, if if you're interested in learning more, visit my website. If you're interested in learning more, check out book 1 of my series. Whatever. Just something so people have a sense of what they have to do next and that they're not guessing. And then again, a professional looking photo or image. Sometimes I see grainy images. Sometimes I see things that just don't look great. Don't have to get a pro headshot, but just something that presents you in a positive light. And even if you're a fiction author, let's say you don't have a personal headshot, some sort of image related to your brand, to your website, to whatever it is, to your title. Cool. All right. Anything else on Amazon strategies here, Jordan?
Nope.
Good
stuff.
All right, so that's a number of different ones, and we'll move now to off Amazon strategies, and I will also just kind of blaze through them, and we'll kind of cover them at the end here. Engage your audience on social media, things like personal Facebook page, or Facebook groups, live videos such as we're doing here on YouTube. You can do those on Facebook, on Instagram, elsewhere. Post reviews on Goodreads, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on your personal blog, especially if you are active in your genre. Reviews can be really helpful for building connections with your peers and also finding people who are interested in that kind of material. Create video content. Doesn't have to be about your book only. Could be, things like this. Could be reviews. It could be how-tos. It could be any number of different things. We've got videos that we've created previously about different ideas for authors if they're interested in creating video content, but create that all the same. Another thing here, include an email signature, something that you're sending emails out a day. Many people are sending out dozens, hundreds of emails a day. Include a signature. Hey, check out, if you haven't read it yet, check out my book, and include an Amazon link to your title. Let people know that it's out there. Consider putting your title on other platforms, for example, Draft to Digital. So Amazon, as you know, is not the only game in town. There are other platforms, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, the iTunes Store, etc. We recommend something like Draft to Digital, which is a good aggregator to send them off to all those other different platforms and channels and make them available. Some people, they're just not going to shop on Amazon, but they might find you on Barnes & Noble or wherever. Another thing, we've also covered this in a video before, build an email list. So if you don't have that, there's some good resources on building an email list, but that can really help get you going, and you don't need to have any financial outlay. There are free options available to get you started and start putting together some material or some content so you can speak directly to the people who are interested in the kind of work that you are doing. Another thing here, create your own website. Again, you can do this free on WordPress. It may not be your own domain, but you can just set up, hey, myauthorpage.wordpress.com and create something as a landing page, as a site for people who are interested in learning more about you. Just start building that out. If you don't have any money, you don't need to have any money. You can actually do this, and this may in turn help with building your brand and increasing your sales. Another thing that's important, read your genre. Be aware of what's going on in it. Are there really good books? Are there things that people are talking about? Are there emerging trends? Are there new strategies or tactics that people are talking about if you have a particular area of interest? Read your genre, be a good resource so that you're a peer to your fellow readers and also a peer to the leaders within your genre. And then we've got.
Oh, and Rob, you can do that for free too.
Yeah.
If you get a library card, you can read for free. Just want to mention that you don't have to, pay for the books that you need to pay for, but there are options to get books for free. So
yeah, absolutely.
Especially if they're older books that are classics, you can find those for free at the library.
Yeah, for sure. And then finally, follow the leader. This is something I've mentioned before. I love it. This is a term that Derek Depker mentioned on a recent podcast with Dale Roberts. Basically, what are other people in your genre who are succeeding doing? Are they, what sort of category, or what sort of podcasts are they appearing on? What sort of guest posting are they doing? What sort of YouTube content are they creating? See what people who are successful are doing, and then create your own version of it. Create your own individualized, personal flair. But there's a path already laid out, and you can use that as a guidepost. So those are a number of different off Amazon strategies. Any thoughts on any of those, Jordan?
Oh yeah, a lot of thoughts. So yeah, definitely. Great. I think all the ones we listed, like we said, these are $0 marketing strategies. There's always ways of doing things for free. There are platforms out there you can build an email list on for free. It may not be the best. It may not be the thing that's going to fit totally for you, but yeah, there are options for doing that for free and just take up a little bit of your time. Uploading to Draft to Digital to put it on other platforms. It's free to do that. Now, of course, they take a percentage of sales, just like any aggregator or any, KDP is taking part of your sales. But yeah, you can still go on and do that. I just wanted to mention that, like all these strategies, are $0 marketing strategies. But it doesn't mean that the $0 option is the best. It just means that if you need to, like we're sharing in this video, you can do that.
Exactly. You can start it off there, and maybe you say, hey, I don't really know if Draft to Digital is going to really move the needle, or I don't really know if building an email list is really for me. Do it in a low cost way. And then maybe you find, okay, you're on Draft to Digital and you're getting a ton of sales through Barnes & Noble. Okay, maybe it's worth it to actually go over to Barnes & Noble, set up an account there directly, and then save yourself that 5 or 10% or whatever fee that the aggregator is taking out of it. But you can do that later. You don't have to do everything perfectly right out of the gate. Maybe you find that you're outpacing your email list and there's more that you could be more functionality that you're looking for. Great. You can figure that out and do that, upgrade it piecemeal as you learn what you actually need, so you can focus on that rather than on things that you're not sure whether you need or not.
Yep, and of these, Rob, I really, really do like your like the follow the leader recommendation too. It makes me think about what I want to do for my next projects and my next books, and just gets my head spinning. Like, okay, what are other people doing? Do I know that off the top of my head? Yeah, I know of some, but certainly I could see just spending a couple hours doing research on that, doing a kind of my own personal research project, fueling the fire for hey, there are people doing this. And yeah, maybe they did this, maybe they did this. How can I fit in and do this better? And those things. I see that as a great suggestion as far as like something I would love to spend a couple hours doing. And I think it would just, it would give you information. But like I said, I think it could potentially fuel the fire too. Okay, now I can do this because it's something that's real. It's not just, I'm not just making this, I'm not just writing this book or making this project based on what I think is going to work, Yeah,
exactly. You have a path there, and you have something that you can emulate, that you can follow. Hey, what would this other great author who I respect, what would they do in my situation? Oh, here, they've already showed me. Let's see if I can create any of those tactics and strategies. So yeah, great information. And moving on to closing thoughts here. And There is plenty to do to build your brand and increase sales, many of which don't involve any outlay. So what are your favorite book marketing ideas, whether $0 ideas or things that may include some investment? We'd love to hear from you. Reach out and leave us some comments and let us know what sort of things you are interested in, what is engaging to you, and anything else you wanted to say, Jordan? I will mention as well, we are trying to keep these down to around 30 minutes to see if people respond and find that information content a little bit more helpful. Yeah. So if you have any questions, if you're in the live audience, feel free to leave them. We will keep an eye out for another moment or two. But yeah, any thoughts, Jordan, before we wrap up here?
No, I love these thoughts. I love that last call too, because yeah, there's always things you can be doing. I think sometimes it can get overwhelming, and I can share as an author myself. I have that same thought. I'm like, oh man, like I'm not sure what I should do next, or I'm not sure what the next best step is, or I have the thought like I don't really want to spend any money today. I don't want to add any more ads. I don't want to do any of those things. Right. But yeah, I have a couple hours. What are some things I could do? And I think the best approach, is not to just shotgun it, but is to have a strategy. So I would definitely say pick a few of these things that stand out to you that may work, and give them a try. Start with the ones that stand out, and then go from there.
Yeah, exactly. So some things may really speak to you. Maybe you're not a video content creator. So you're like, I'm not gonna prioritize that right now. But hey, I really like blogging. I can actually set up that website that I've been thinking about and start creating some written content there, or vice versa. Hey, I don't really like blogging, but maybe I'll jump on a live stream and start creating a little bit of content, answer some questions that maybe I had, as I was getting into the business, or as I started, learning about my genre or whatever, and maybe that's going to be helpful for other people. Also, again, we mentioned being involved in Facebook groups, in things that are existing networks for people who are interested in the sort of things that you're interested in. That could be a really good source of content if you're positioning yourself as some sort of authority, or at least somebody who's a part of that arena, and you have a book, so there's some authority there, whether you've authored it or you're just starting out your speaking engagements or whatever. When people say, hey, how do you do this thing? How would you approach this? What sort of questions should I be asking? And if I'm, facing this particular situation, or how do I strategize around it? This is a great opportunity to share any insight. Now, I would advise you to make sure that you have something instructive to share. If it is a question that you've struggled with too, and you came up with something, then by all means share that. If that's something that you've never experienced before, I mean, maybe you can speculate, but hopefully you have something that's not just speculation. But in any event, this could be a really good source for information and content on. For you to create, additional resources for people to find you.
Yeah, and I'll add one more thing, Rob. There's no such thing as an overnight success. And I know some of these suggestions, you're like, but I don't know. I don't see how that's going to move the needle on doing that one thing. Well, the one thing, it's probably not really going to move the needle, but it's the culmination of the whole. You spend a couple extra days doing these things and adding and just building yourself that platform. It can make a huge difference over time. So like we said, it's not none of these are going to be like the drop dead, like, oh, all of a sudden I'm killing it on Kindle strategies. No, these are the build your platform, put in the time, hustle. And then, yeah, we can't wait to hear about your success, because I know you're going to have it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, great closing sentiments, Jordan. Folks out there, thank you for tuning in. Let us know your thoughts, any strategies that you love, any additional questions or comments or topics that we kind of covered and you'd like us to get into more detail on. We're happy to do that. But otherwise, we will see you folks next week on Archangel Inc. Live. Have a good rest of your evening.